All right, everyone's back. Let's get her done. Let's get her done. No. Okay. So, let's see where we left off here. We left off, this is where we're at. Should be able to get to the create user, log in. Both are changing the path in order to trigger the server to render a different view, right? User's new, gives us that. Login, session's new, gives us that. Pretty much, at this point in time, identical. What they look like, just two different views are doing the rendering, okay? So let's take a look at creating new users. So what's involved with creating a user? So in order to create a user, we're going to have to post, right? So if we collect things from the user, the new user EJS file, right? So if I go to users and go to new EJS, this is our form. Our form will allow us to collect data, right? It's a form where they can type in a username and password. And in order for us to work with this form, we need to have an action so that when they do submit this form, that the form goes someplace and triggers an action, right? So that action is to change the URL to be users and change the method to be post. So if I go to form here and I say action is equal to users and method is equal to post. And what we're saying is we want to post is going to trigger the retrieval of this data that's submitted, smack it into an object, send it over to the server, and send it to this particular route. So let me go in here. Okay. Oh, why did that happen? Did I miss? Oh, here we go. Let me just edit this thing. I forgot. There we go. Save changes. All right. I just slacked it out. Easy enough. What we're doing is saying, hey, send the data over to the user's route. Okay. And we know in our server, when we hit users, we're going to send it over there. And so if I go to the users controller, I would see, hey, there's a get. Okay. But we're also going to be posting there as well. Now, before we get to the post, we need to have a model that creates a user. So we don't yet have that. Our models folder doesn't really have anything inside of it. And so we need to, once we get the data, we want to kind of set up the backend, set up this model to be able to create a user. We're going to pass it the appropriate information. So here, I'm going to say const mongoose, right, is equal to require mongoose. We're going to grab our dependencies. Const schema is equal to mongoose dot schema. Okay. So we're going to import the mongoose schema, and the schema is really, once again, kind of like the properties that are going to define the prototype or the model that's going to be used. So the model is using this kind of template, which is the schema. And we'll say const user schema is equal to schema that we imported. That takes in an object. Username is a string, and password is a string. and then we create const user is equal to mongoose.model, where user and user schema. Okay. Last thing we need to do is just to exports is equal to user. Okay. Let's make sure everything looks good here. Spelled everything correctly. Schema, user, schema. Sweet. So once again, just all this model is doing is importing the dependencies that it needs to construct a schema, to instantiate a new schema, and to use that schema as the base for this particular model. And then we just export the model, right? So take this. Okay. Do that. I'm going to save it, make sure. Just give me a thumbs up. And the controller now is that middle ground between the database and the view. And the view is what's kind of sending us the data. That data is going to go to the controller. The fact that it goes to the controller now will have the data and the connection to the database to make that user, or to generate the user. So all that would happen from the user's controller, right? So once again, the naming convention here, controller users, it's called users underscore controller. Just have to update the lecture to include all of these, but we're in the right folder, right? We only have controllers. We have two controllers. One is going to be used for creating sessions, and the other will be used for creating users. So in here, once again, we required Express, we required router, we had our models that we done earlier. Wasn't there, now it is there, right? We just finished creating model users, right? That was our model. And so now what we're going to do is to create the post route. So, do this. Make sure everyone's caught up though. I got 16, 17, 18, 19. If anyone's stuck at any point in time, reach out. Okay. Don't want to lose anybody.
Hey Joe, is this a convention to name all of your files the same thing, basically?
Yeah, that is a convention.
That's a terrible convention.
You know what? It's funny that you should say that, because once you get to Rails, now Rails has commands that spin up this entire structure for us, and its naming convention is very similar to this, where the names of the files are going to represent what they're doing, and it's done meticulously like that, so there's no confusing. There's no interpreting what you would have called a controller that has access to create users. It would have been called, on the Rails side, it's going to be different, but say it was called users controller, maybe one word with the uppercase C, something like that. You would know ahead of time that when you hit the command to spin this thing off, that's the construct that it creates. And what it does is it has consistency. Right? If I know that the minute you hit that button, everything is going to have the same naming convention, I can't get lost in that. When you start changing the names to things, and once again, I'm all about kind of like distinguishing things. Once things start changing names, it can get confusing. And without that convention, your server can be very, very different in names than my server, than someone else. And that's why, building something out in Node and Express allows you as the developer to really have that fluidity to do what you want, that freedom. But sometimes that freedom just can stem away from or diverge from maybe a standard practice that all of us could incorporate into our building out of an application. So Rails does it, and something like React does it also. React also has a structure and a naming convention of things, not hard-coded there, but there's a certain structure that we follow, and it makes it easier to look for things. You know, this wouldn't be so hard if I knew where controllers are. If I knew that you had this structure of folders, it would be easier to at least know where to go, right? You may call these things different things up here and then nest things, and it could get confusing if I'm trying to look for something. But I hear that. So let's go on to do the users post. So I'm going to do users.post, and here, there's our post route, rec, res, and then we're going to do something, right? So now that we have a model, our model is stored in user, right? We can use the create method and say rec.body, because we know we're going to get something in. We're going to deal with any errors, created user. And then we're going to, if we try to create something and that something isn't created, right? Maybe there's something wrong with the database. We're going to say, hey, you know, if we get back an error, let's just console log the error, right? Else, well, here we're just saying console log the error. Then I'm putting an else statement here, console log and then redirect. Let's just do console log created user. So we know that the user was created. So we're just dealing with the error. And then res.redirect back. We need to do a redirect, or we need to do some sort of response. Otherwise, the client's machine is just going to hang. Without this res, their machine just keeps waiting and waiting and waiting, because the request response lifecycle dictates that if I make a request, I get something back. If I don't get something back immediately, then I just wait for it. It's almost like a promise. Like I'm making a promise that since I sent data, I'm just going to sit here and wait, and hopefully you'll give me something back. At a certain point in time, the client will error out. The browser will error out. So let me back that out. Looks good. Post right body, create user. Okay.
There's some issues going on with how the variable is declared and what they're calling it later in the function. Like up top, we have it declared as user. And then
Here?
down, yeah. And then down here, they're saying users.post.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Users.get.
Okay. Let me make a note of that too. Is that controller users? To user. Okay. So, yeah. So let me edit what I put in here. That's exactly what we want. So it's not users.post, it's user. Oh, okay. Okay. So we got that. Just going to make sure didn't break anything, right? My server is still running. Right, could not find file parcels.head. I think that was earlier. Everything looks pretty good. Server's still running. Okay. So this should, if we did this, we should be able at this point in time to create a user, right? So if I go to the app and I sign up and I sign in, it is not redirecting. So unless I did something wrong here, it should have redirected, right? So if I have new user, I'm going to just take a look at the console, and Looks good. Let me go back, refresh this page. I'm gonna just try stopping and starting the server. Let me see. Because it looks like we have everything we need, correct? The ability to post. We're sending the data. We're in the user's controller. We're posting. We're getting rec dot. And so let me console log and just see, right? If we're hitting this route, when we post, we should see the data there. So let me see. Sign up. So when we do this, so it doesn't look like it's hitting it. I don't see the console log happening there. So I'm just going to make sure I'm not open in the other server now, and I'm in this server. So why would it not hit? So now I'm just curious, like why would
It worked for me. Is it a save issue?
no?
Because you have two files that aren't saved.
Got
Server and then looks like new.
Okay, so it was this one. It was the post, right? I'm going to do this. I'm just going to close out a bunch of these. Just stay in the ones that I need right now. Here's server. Let's get out of this. All right, so here we go. So let's do it one more time. Create a user. Boom. All right, cool. We redirected, and there we go. Password, username Joe, password Joe, right? It's not being encrypted. There is no hash, but the user is being created. Right? It is being returned. I have the ID of the user, so I actually have that object. Now what we need to do, though, is to allow or provide some sort of kind of encryption. So we can hide that password. And so once we capture the password, we never know the password. Right? That's one thing about like supporting your own server is like you have to worry at some point in time if your server gets hacked, they may have access to this database of users. A lot of times instead of setting up local authentication like this, where we're storing our users, we'll use something like software as a service, maybe like a Firebase to do the login or Google Open Auth to do it. So we can just, hey, type in your credentials. I send them over to Google. Google tells me you're authenticated. Good. I don't have to worry about authentication. So as of right now, we're taking on that responsibility. We're being responsible for storing users and authenticating them, okay? Which sometimes isn't a burden as the developer you want to have. You want to build your app and let another service do that. So in order for us at this point in time, that's our decision. We're making that decision. So we are going to need to install that session, express session NPM package so that we can use this kind of session hashing algorithm. All right, so I'm going to go back to our server. All right, so let me see. Here's the server. I'm going to just stop my server and do npm install express-session. If I do this, we'll install the npm package, right? If I go to package.json, we don't see it. Let me refresh. Oh, it's not because I did save. No, dash save. Should have done it right. That's weird. I am in the right server.
Joe, it's right there.
Where?
Right there. Express session.
Oh, snap. You know where I was looking for it? I was looking for it as the last element here, but it's doing it alphabetically. Okay. My brain went into the order in which we did the install earlier. It put them in sequence, but that was only because the way we did the order of them was they all were in alphabetical order. So my brain just went to, hey, it must be at the end. Why don't I see it? Cool. So we got it. It's installed. Now what we need to do is to do that secret kind of passphrase, that secret key. And so we're going to go into our env file right here, And inside of the env file is where we're going to store our secret key. So I'm going to say secret is equal to feed me say more. I didn't make it up. That's just the way it is. And once again, whatever you have or whatever you choose to use is going to be your secret. It's no biggie. Once again, no one's going to be able to see the secret on your server. I mean, I'm just slacking out what my secret is. You'll have your secret. You can use the same one. Okay. Now back in our server, right? We are now going to need to use, right, app.sessions. Right here needs to be used inside of the server. So I'm going to go to server.js, okay? And in here, I'm going to put it, because remember the use, what's important about this middleware? I kind of explained it earlier today. What's important about the middleware? How the middleware processes the data coming in.
It's important where you declare it in your file.
Yes. It's important because the data as it comes in is going to be, it's going to go through this middleware sequence. And once it goes through this middleware sequence, it's going to touch the data or look for specific values, properties inside of whatever's coming in inside of that request, and then make changes, additions, add a new object, collect data, whatever it's meant to do. Okay, so as part of our construct here, I want to add it within here. Like we got the method override, so it's going to be like, oh, we're going to do this thing now. It's not just a post, it's a delete. Cool. Go to the next one. So we're going to put it here, and so we're going to configure our sessions. Okay, sessions, and the secret is stored in the .env file, right? Oh, that's where we stored the secret, and that will never get pushed up to the server, okay? And so what's going to happen is there's this secret handshake with the password's going to come in, right, that you typed in. We're going to apply this algorithm, and then that algorithm is going to change it so that when we do send it on its way, this middle step right here, we will never know after this step is completed what the actual password was. We'll only know that if we took your password, combined it with the secret, ran the hashing algorithm, that it would produce the same identical results every time. That's just how we know that it's the password, but we'll never know what it is. So here, we're going to say app.use, and we'll say sessions, okay, because we're going to have, oh, we have to import it too. I didn't import it, so we're going to have to import that here. Let me go back up here real quick and just import it. Const session is equal to require express session, okay? Let's make sure we got that's required. Okay.
Joe, is it session or sessions?
It is session right here.
Okay.
Yeah. Once again, I know with some of the README file is a little bit off, but this is guaranteed. This is what we're doing. We're pulling in, we're enumerating the session package. We're pulling it in, and we're going to use it here. And this then takes an object. We're going to say secret process.env.secret, right? We did make it uppercase, so this has to be uppercase. Inside of our env file, but just take a look. It is secret uppercase, so that's what we have to reference here. Then we're going to say resave false. Let me just put a little space here. False. And then save uninitialized false, right? Uninitialized false. Sweet. this out. Okay. That's our middleware. The cycle of middleware, the data has been mutated. And then ultimately, that data that was inside of that request, they're all grabbing the request object and doing something with it, and then passing the request object down through this chain, okay? Ultimately, it's going to come here, because this is the first instance of us using the request object. This route doesn't get hit, so then we go to the users, and then the sessions, and wherever that data needs to get used, that's where we're going to use it. Awesome. Now we have our session. So let's go on to build. Let's give everyone time. I got 11, 12, 13. Let me just wait, make sure everyone's caught up. Even if you had gone ahead, like during lunch, you just wanted to go ahead, that's cool. Just let me know that you're at least done with that step. I don't want to go too far ahead and lose anyone. Session. We'll build a user model here. All right, models users. Okay. It looks like there's just a duplicate section here, like models users. It's like they duplicated it right here to show you that that was the model users. Now let's build the sessions controller. Okay, so I'm going to go into the sessions controller. We have our model. Let's go here to our sessions controller where we did require. We have router. We tested this out earlier just to make sure that it worked. And now let us do const user is equal to, let me just take a quick look here. I just want to make sure there's no more typos. If there is one more typo, nope, that's it. Const user is equal to require dot dot, because we're going back up, models users.js. Okay, we have our session new, that doesn't change, we're just adding that, we're exporting sessions. Cool. And our server.js has it, is it? This was the new user section, right? Yeah, this was it. I just feel like they're doubling up on the sections in here. So we have our users, all right? Looks good. Everyone doing good? Anyone have any issues? Any errors coming up? Okay. Our server controller.
I think that needs to be models/users_controller. Right.
Oh, this, right?
Yeah.
Models. Oh, for models? Models is just users.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah. So it was the controller that's user controller. Now, you know, if I had to kind of go back to do this and rename things, I would probably be doing something like this and call users _models, users _controller, or use camel case instead of underscores. Just my personal naming convention. I don't like seeing like the same file name just kind of floating around in different folders. That in itself can get confusing. So we wouldn't want to do that. I mean, this is how they had set it up without me just going through this lecture and like editing everything. Someone made the decision to do this instead of leaving it at users, probably for the same reason. People were getting confused. All right, so if we take a look at our server we already had imported that sessions controller, right? So let me just go down here. Sessions controller was working earlier. There's nothing we need to do here, right? But now what we need to do is in the controller sessions, now let's go back here, controller sessions underscore controller, right? So this is going to be sessions underscore controller, not sessions. We're in the controllers folder. Sessions underscore controller is the file name. And in here, we need to do a post, okay? So the post route is going to set up the session for our user, okay? And we're going to add the data to our session object, so they'll have access to that session object as they work through the site, going from page to page. They'll have a handle on this thing, and they can always kind of send it along with it and be like, hey, I'm this user, this is my session, I have an active session. So here, again, I'm just going to make sure the name again. Sessions. Yes, we're going to do a sessions here. Okay, so we're going to create this session. Sessions.post. Okay, so if they hit that route of sessions without using new, that means we're posting here. Rec res, and then we're going to use user. Right, that's our model. Our model is to find one. User wants to kind of log in. We got to find the user. And there, I'm just going to go to them. Maybe I'll go to the next line here. Find one where the user name is equal to whatever inside rec.body.username. Okay. This username, does anyone know where this username key came from? Anyone recall?
Like when they're adding their account, you mean? Creating
Yeah,
their
it
account?
is. How did we define this username key here? Like, where did that key come from?
In the schema,
Inside the form, you have the input field, which is name equal to username.
Mm-hmm. Inside the form, there's where we have names of things, right? We have these kind of keys here. And this key, where's the key? See, for label username. So this is where we're eliciting that value from. So we package it up and it's like, hey, whatever you put here as a value is now going to go, it's this name right here. It's whatever you put into this input field, I'm going to create a key called username and then grab the input and then give it as its value. Okay? So this is where that comes from. That's what we're going to be using here, okay? Just so that you know. So when you are creating a form, you clearly know where the data is actually coming from. So when you create your form, you'll know what you need to do in rec.body to elicit that value out, okay? So we have the user saying find one, rec, and then let me see, we're going to do it like that. Maybe I will put this on one line here. Username, right? And then we're going to have error. Move this over just a little bit so we can see. In case we have an error, we'll just say found user.
Hey, Joe.
Yep.
I must have gotten lost in translation here because 1 minute we were doing one thing and now we're on a whole nother. I'm so lost.
Okay. Where are you at right now?
I was following with you on the markdown, so I was trying to like do both, and I must have been looking one way and the other way went the other way. And
okay.
But
So,
so we're not to build the user model. The model's users.js. I like.
so the user's model was already built.
Right.
Yeah. So the user model was built, right? And the user model was built before. So we had this done already. And then we're moving on to the sessions controller now. So we're in the sessions controller. And the sessions controller also part of it was created earlier. Like this part was done earlier, and that's how we tested sessions, right? That's how we tested those two buttons.
Right.
That functionality was in place. What we're doing now is just adding the post route. This is what we're adding here. This post route is what we're going to be adding. Let me just slag it out. We're adding that post route, and the post route is going to be responsible for finding the user Okay. And then what we're going to do, confirm, like, find the user. If the password is equal to the found user.password, what's in the database, then we're going to say, hey, rec.session current user is equal to the found user. Like, we found the user, and we're going to put that session as part of, to confirm that they now have a session. We'll redirect them back to the home page. Else, we'll tell them that they have the wrong password. Okay? It's kind of where we're at right now. I'm just going to go back here. We're on this next line right here. So I'm going to go here and say rec. Does that help, Aaron? Does it clear up where we're at?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to keep up, and I'm just getting
Okay.
kind of.
So let's add this, and then once again, I already posted when everyone's kind of caught up to that. I don't really want to go too far too fast, because it is. If you get lost in one step and you're like, where are we? So let's just do rec.current user is equal to found. Oh, wait a second. Nope. I got to do the if statement. So here, if rec.body.password, right? We have to validate if the password is equal to found user.password. Okay? Is it equal to what they just typed in? If it is, awesome. Then we can go forward and we can say, hey, rec.session, this session object, the current user key is equal to found user. If that's good, then let's redirect them back to the home page. If that's not the case, then we need to tell them something, and we need to say, hey, res.send, this must mean that, their password is wrong. href is equal to / let's just say wrong password, anchor, boom. Okay? So we need to do this. I'm just going to wait. I posted that in Slack a couple of minutes ago. Just going to wait till everyone's kind of caught up. Go back to my server. Nothing seems to be broken. Oh, let me see. Or did I type something incorrect here?
Joe, you need a closing A tag before wrong password after your href.
Oh, yes, right here. Okay. So my localhost, server crash. Let's see. Start a node again. Oh, I'm waiting for file to start. Unexpected token. Where is this found user? User.find1. So this is where it's happening. Sessions.controller, user.find1. It's saying that this find1.
Yeah, I think you need that parenthesis around that second ending curly bracket.
This one?
Right there. Yep. Pretty sure you need that there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Nope. Let me see. Let me just stop and restart the server. Let's see if it still says user.find1. So what I'm going to do, only because I'm going to copy this. I don't want to keep, if it's me just mistyping it. There we go. So there was a mistype there. Awesome. We're good. Yeah, this is why I don't like typing all this stuff out from scratch. I just have a tendency to overlook one small little thing, forget a parens. Or if you're going to do this, maybe you just create the if statement with nothing in it, code block with nothing in it, create the structure, and then go back and add some of the content. Otherwise, it just gets easy to, at least for me, typing this stuff all day. So we got 14. Numbers are going up. 1819 looks good. Getting there. This is where I want it to be. 18, 19, 20. Sweet. Looking good. All right. So it looks like the next thing we need to do here is in our new sessions. If I go into the new sessions form itself, I look at the form. Once again, we are going to be doing some posting, right? And we need to change the action to redirect it back to the sessions view. Sessions and action equals sessions. And the method is equal to post. Okay. Once again, we want to get that data to the back end, and the only way to do that is to indicate that we want to post data, we want to send something, and we also want to send that data to this route. That's where the data is going. Okay? Like that. Sure, we're all good with that. Ultimately, what we need to do is also pass the username that we retrieve back. So once the person is authenticated via sessions, we're going to get back that person's object from the database. It's going to contain their username. We're going to want to ultimately send that username back to the index page so that we can like welcome them and say, hey, welcome whatever was your name. Right? So for me, it'd be welcome, Joe. So we can take that, feed it to one of our views. In this instance, it will be index EJS. But before we can send anything to the view, we're going to need to go into server.js. Okay. Before we do that, I just want to make sure everyone's kind of caught up. I see we're at 18. And definitely reach out if you're having any errors. Reach out. Let me know. I don't want to lose anyone for too long. That's always the challenge I found with the code-alongs. So you're coding, some people don't tell you what's going on, that their stuff isn't working, and then by the time you get there, it's like they're way behind. So I don't want that. All right, so I'm going to go to server. Now in the server.js file, we have our res.render, right? And our res.render was rendering the EJS file. That was cool, and it was just, you know, it's giving our buttons, giving them the login, the log out, the sign up, the login. What we want to do is pass data to it. And we do that by putting a comma. That's an optional thing, right? It'll render the EJS file of your choosing. If you want to send something to it, some sort of data, well, then you have to include an object. And we're going to say current user is rec.session.current user. Okay? So what we're going to do, we just added one line. We're going to pass the current user's info to the EJS file. And then we can reference that current user object now, right? Because this is going to be an object, and we're going to be able to elicit the properties from it within the index template, within index EJS. Okay? We're just going to add some new information. We did have the, I'm just going to kind of stretch this out so we can see, we did have sign up and login, which is here, sign up and login, okay? And what we're going to do is now add some conditional logic. Inside of here, we're going to add some conditional logic to say, hey, if your current user is authenticated, then we'll welcome you and we'll give you a logout button, else do something else. When you're doing this, right, could we have run this conditional logic someplace else? This conditional logic that we're about to add here, could it have been placed somewhere else? Any ideas?
In a partial?
Maybe a partial. I was thinking more of this. If our server over here is kind of, what was our sessions? If our sessions was doing it, maybe we could redirect them someplace else. Like this current user is coming from where? Let me see. When we did this, gets passed down, right? And then we have this current user session here. Maybe we could have ran some logic in here, some JavaScript logic that's like if current user, like rec.session.current.user.username, that doesn't exist or something, or that errors out, or if this is false, then render a different template, right? So we could have created another template. I'm personally not preferable to like using conditional logic, or I like to keep the EJS files as JavaScript free as possible. If I need to loop through an object to create those elements, then sure, that's what the template is used for, right? I kind of prefer to keep some conditional logic outside of it and pass in or execute something based on that. I may not, if I had to write this, may not have opted to like add that logic in there. I may have opted to do something here and maybe create 2 different templates or something like that. But it's what we have. So I'm going to go back here. And in our H1, we are going to, curly brace, I'm going to create the structure first, and then I'll add the code. Once again, I like to have those little EJS icons created first so I know that one ends and one begins and I don't have to look for it later. And then I'm just going to say if current user, right? Awesome. We're going to have an opening curly. And then at some point in time, we're going to end this curly. And that curly is going to be ended right, or one of the curlies is going to be ended down here, right? Let's just start with this. I have this if condition. And what we're going to say is, if that's true, then welcome. And then we're going to do the same thing, equals, 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 and then end it. And then I'll put something inside of it. Current user dot username exclamation. Okay, welcome with an E, point with an E. Okay. And then we have this session button. I'm just, for the sake of this, I'm getting tired of mistyping stuff. I'm going to type this, just going to paste it in here. Don't have to type it out. Okay. So we have our logouts, we have our anchor. This will then end the H1. So the H1 over here is where it began, right? But we're not doing the welcome here anymore. So I was going to take that out and then end it right here. That would end our H1. And then we would have beginning of our else. Right? We're going to close the if, else. Get rid of that. Now begins the else statement. And all this is just straight up text. Show, 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 show. And then end the thing. Okay? So let me select this out. and we get success. If we tested this out, we're able to log in, we should see our name. Test this out. I'm just gonna make sure nothing, of course, nothing broke. Oh my God. I'm gonna just do this because I'm tired of things just breaking on me. So this div, I'm going to have this H1. I'm just gonna paste what I have here too. I think from this point on, I might just opt to paste away. Then view file, save, everything looks good. So why is this if current user? So it looks like this might be the cause there. Let me go back here. I'm gonna take a look at my server, right? I'm just gonna get rid of some of these files here, things I don't need. Server.js, we did pass current user, right? I'm curious why current user, if we're passing the current user there.
Is it saved?
It's not saved.
Oh, that's fine. There we go. All right. So, I think we logged in earlier, right? I don't think the password, wrong password, right? Because the password that was saved is not the password. The original password that I had saved just had my name and a string of my name. That's not what it is anymore, right? It's a hashed password. It's doing the comparison, and it's not the same. So I'm just going to sign up with Joe2, submit it. I log in, Joe2, boom, right back where we need to be. Okay, then I can log out. We have to
Joe,
change the logout. Yeah.
Mine worked with the original.
Without doing this?
No, I'm saying like doing the original name and password. It worked.
Oh, if it worked with the original username and password, I'm just curious because if you had this in our server file, then it should not. I mean, you can always console log and see maybe you hashed it beforehand. I'm not sure. Maybe you created it afterwards.
Probably.
Yeah. All you'd have to do is just console log and see the user, right? And then you would see.
Mine worked, but it doesn't say the name of the user, and it doesn't have a logout button. Like it says welcome.
Okay. So then that would be in the index file right here. This is probably where you don't have or did not include this. So that was the last thing that I slacked. If you copy and paste what I slacked and you put it in index and you do that. The only thing that I missed was the div container. I copied and pasted the div up to the H1, so that's all I would put in there.
And is the logout button supposed to work right now or no?
The logout button does not work.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep. Let me see here. All right. Just let me see. Just gonna take a look here. I want to just test something. Back, refresh. I got no. It's not working.
Now I'm getting a cannot post sessions new.
Okay. You want to share your screen and we can try to take a look at it?
Yeah.
Let me stop sharing. Right. Cannot post sessions new, right? So we're hitting that sessions new route, right? And that sessions new route is where? That is in our sessions controller. So go to your sessions controller, right? We got sessions new. get sessions new, render sessions new EJS. So I don't think we would be posting it. Let me just take a look and see where the route is. And you're
You
getting
have a double equals sign when it needs to be a triple one.
Here?
Yeah.
I don't know. I had it as a double and it worked. I don't think that's going to do it. Maybe it will. I don't know. Take a look, see if it works. I almost think like, you know, because it cannot post. When you see a message like cannot post, it's trying to look for a post route. That's what it's looking for. And it's not finding the route that it's looking for. That's usually it. If we got rid of the default get, you would see that. So I'm going to go to the session.
Is it in my server then?
Let's take a look at your server. I don't think it's in the server because anything that comes into sessions, right? Anything like on line 51 and 52, we're actually saying anything that comes into /sessions, send that over to the sessions controller.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And it's in here that we have sessions, and we're saying if we get, then we post here. So I'm just kind of surprised that the post is not working here. We can't find sessions new. I don't think, you know what I think? Here's what I think. I'm just going to log out. My guess is that where it's doing new, let me just take a look at sessions new. I don't think that there is a sessions. Just going to log out of here. Let me get out of here. Let's go back to the beginning. I'll let you know in just 1 second. It won't log me out. All right, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to stop my server, restart my server.
Can we see your EJS file?
which one? The session one?
No,
Or
go to.
that one? Or,
Try the session one.
The act, right? You're looking for maybe clicking on the button.
Well, it says actions versus action, so I'm thinking that might be it.
oh.
Yes, that's exactly it. There you go.
Just make sure you refresh. Yeah.
There we go.
It worked. Thank you, Christian.
Thanks, Christian. Awesome. Anybody else? All right. Share. We're back. All right. So we're almost done. We don't have a little bit more here. Okay. So let's work on the log out button now. Okay. So the log out button is, we have just a little bit left. Yeah, so maybe we'll just push through this. Let's do the log out button. So let's go to, in our views, right, our index, in our views file, in our index. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to put it down here so we can see it. Our form action, right, form action, sessions _ method delete, because now we need to delete our session, right? I log in, doing this thing, I'm done. I need to delete the session. So let me just paste this and I'll show you where we're going to put it inside. Okay. For the just sake of mistyping, I'm going to copy it. I'll show you where we're going to paste it inside the file. So underneath the H2, right here, right? Where is it, please? I'm going to push this else button just above the else. So it's right here that we're going to paste this. So let me just create some space here so you can see where I pasted it. Okay. And move this over. Move this over. Okay. Here's our form. Okay. So we are saying, hey, we're going to post it here. Login button. Welcome. Here's our form. It's good. Okay. Get our input. It's going to be a button. All right. I updated our index. I'm going to go into the sessions controller now, because now we have to deal with the action of deleting. So once this form is clicked here, right? Once it's clicked, we should, once again, I'm just going to see, does it exist? I'm here. We got log out here also, right? If I log out, cannot delete because the delete method has not been created. So once again, anytime you see a message like that, the route itself doesn't seem to, the route may exist, kind of, but the method associated with that route doesn't exist. And this doesn't yet exist, okay? So we have to go into the sessions controller, and we have to now include a sessions.delete route, right? We're associated with that default route, delete method with that kind of route, rec res, and then rec dot session dot destroy, and then res dot redirect. Okay, and I'm going to take this, paste it. Okay. I'm just going to test it out, just make sure. I'm going to continue resubmission, like refresh. So I'm going to log in, Joe2, awesome. Log out, and it takes me right back here.
What?
Okay, so we put that, once again, that code went inside of our sessions controller. And once we, on our index, if we ever did click log, we click on the button. So we don't really need this button anymore, right? In this kind of log out. Or do we? I'm just gonna cut that. I just want to see something.
I now have 2 of them.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna test it out. It's the same thing. Yeah. So what I did was I cut out this on line 13. If you take that out, we're going to remove that log out button. That's going to work just as the same as this. This button here, this input, because we're giving it a value, we're telling it it's a submit. So instead of using an anchor tag now, we are using a submit button to do the log out. So the input can be turned into what looks like a button, and we can give it an internal value. If I change this, that's what is seen here. So I'm going to get rid of this because we don't really need that. For here, we don't really need it, right? I'm going to go back, just test it. Make sure everything is still working. Log out, and then I'm back in.
I'm getting like a current user undefined.
When do you get the current user undefined?
When after I create a username and it redirects me back to the main page and I try to log in with the name and password, when I submit that, instead of taking me to a page that says, you know, can't get such and such, it says the site can't be reached, and then it says that I have to cannot set property current user of undefined.
Okay, you want to take a look? Why don't we share?
Sure.
Share. Let's take a look. Okay, I see cannot set property current user of undefined. So let's see that. So what I would try doing, like, does it tell us the exact file? Sessions controller line 12. So I'm just looking at the error message, and it actually says on line 12 is where that's happening. So in your session controller right there. So what I would do is maybe console log between 10 and 11, between line 10 and 11, console log, and just see that rec.session.current user has something. That's what I would first see, right? Because it's saying that it can't set it. It's trying to set it to undefined, right?
Right.
Current user of undefined. Try to go through the process now. Let's see.
Sessions misspelled at 11.
Oh yeah, you're missing the I.
Pardon the typos.
Yeah, these full day code alongs are so frustrating because potential for typos. What we get? So it's still saying unhandled error event, cannot read property current user. It's not even, I just want to make sure that this thing is, on line 11, can you just add some text before the console log just so that we know like it's coming back as undefined? Because then that would mean that it doesn't exist. Just put some text like, this is, current user, comma, or hello, whatever. I don't care. I just want to see something on the screen to indicate that this is where that error should be, or there should be some content. And if we just see hello with no content, then we know that rec isn't getting any data, right? I don't even see it.
It's not there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't see it output there. So that tells me, like, are we even, it is hitting this, right? I think it's getting the error and it's not going past the error, but, Cannot read property, current user undefined. Why can it not read current user? Rec?
So the session is not defined, correct?
That's what it's saying.
So where are you creating your session? Let's check there.
So is it this?
It's, I think, going to be where you create the session. So set in your sessions folder under...
well, this says sessions, but that's like...
I think it's the server.js is where you're looking, or should be looking.
Oh, so yes, server.js is where maybe you got the app.use session, right? Okay, we got that. Secret, process, save, uninitialize. Okay. You're passing the current user there, rec.session.current user, right? That's passing it just to the index file. Sessions app.use. I'm just taking a look here. You do have, let me take a look. Your users and your sessions. So you aggregated your routes and then you defined, where's your, I see on line 18 and 19, you just have it written a little bit differently, Jeremy. Yeah. On line 18 and 19, you aggregated the app.uses, right? Do you have a const sessions controller? Oh, you do have them up there. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. You just changed your structure a little bit. Just want to make sure.
What you're looking at here, it looks like your middleware for session and users is declared after you're declaring your session middleware. Try moving that and see if that fixes it.
Like so?
Yeah, that's where we have it. In ours, we have it underneath.
That's a good call. Let me see if that works.
Because once again, the app.use for this session is going to grab the data, right? So just think this through. This sequence of processes in the middleware, line 16 happens, it's looking for a method override. If it finds it, it does something, right? Then goes to the express URL undercoded and does something there. Then it hits app.use session. If there's a password, it takes that password, does what it needs to do, adds the secret, does the thing, passes that down to app.use. If use needs it, use can use it. If it doesn't, it passes it down to app.sessions. And so the sequence of this is important.
Yeah, that makes sense because this was trying to access stuff that hadn't yet been defined. So that makes perfect sense. It just took me forever to try to figure it out, and I gave up. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And this kind of goes back to when you make those small changes, like you're making a change, and if things worked before and then you decide to change them, test the change. Like move the one thing and then make sure the thing works. Go back and then move the other thing, because you may have hit that sooner and come to the realization like, oh, wait, the sequence of events, that's what's causing the problem. Cool. We only have this much more, but we're at 4:34. I'm torn between taking a break just for 10 minutes and finishing, because we only look like we have just a little bit left, right? How we're feeling. Let me just poll here. Break or finish. Break. Finish.
Hey, Joe. I don't know if you can or can't tell us this, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Yeah. I just put a poll. Just do the poll and then we'll go ahead, Aaron. No, go ahead. Ask the question. I'm listening.
I was going to ask if you could tell us, what is the percentage that this is going to be a part of the project?
That authentication is going to be a part of the project?
Like just everything we've learned today.
I believe it is. I believe authentication is going to be part of the project.
Okay.
So, yeah, it looks like break. All right, let's do this. I can get it. I personally would like to go on break too. So it looks like majority here. Why don't we do a 10-minute break, come back. I really don't like pushing past the hour because after a certain point in time, we just start losing focus and all the errors are just going to get us frustrated. So let's take a 10-minute break, take a step away. We'll come back and then we'll complete it. Then I'll kind of walk you through what's expected of the lab. Okay, 3:42, so 3:52. Come back at 3:52. Come back at 3:52. Boop. Boink. All right. See you in a bit. Sharing. All right. All right. So, going back. It's good. I got most people back. All right. So let's finish this up. We only have the rest of this and then just setting up bcrypt, and we should all be good to go. Okay. So we stopped. Let's see where we stopped. Over here is Carolyn. Login page. So this is where we stopped, right? So in our sessions folder, we had the delete to delete the session, making sure everything works, everything looks good. Now we're going to add a special page for our logged in users. Okay. So once again, when you log in, this is what you get. You get the ability to log out. What we're going to want is just kind of a little special message for them. So we're going to go here back to the index EJS. Okay. What we're going to do is just say, welcome to the party, right? So, oh, here we go. Not index EJS, but we have in our app, we have our app index EJS. Once again, this stuff gets confusing. This is index EJS and that's index EJS. I would probably prefer to call it app index EJS or something more naming convention. So when I see it up here also, I know what I'm dealing with. And so, you know, for the sake of having no more errors, let's just paste that in. What we're saying is, you know, open up partials. Partials here, and let's see, partials should, it's in the same directory, right? Bloop, bloop. I think we may need 2 dots there, right? Partials is 1 dot here, because it's not, if I went here, partials is 2 dots. See how we have the 2 dots here? That's because we're inside this folder. So that's gonna hold true for this index also. So I can already see where the errors are gonna come. Right, I'm just following the structure. I have this app file, this index is stored in this folder, and this EJS file was stored here, has 2 dots, which means we have to go up. So I'm just doing the same thing with this, okay? Not sure why my env file moved there, but okay, I'm just gonna get rid of some of these open things here. Get rid of these, save. Get rid of, and go back to here. Okay? Good. I'm just going to delete this. Make sure it's just a duplicate copy, right? Delete it. I don't know why it's there. Okay. Just going to wait for everyone to get there. So obviously, if we have a new EJS file, that means that we need a new what? Can anyone tell me? The fact that we have a new EJS file in another folder, we're going to need to do what?
New route.
Yeah, probably have a new route. I mean, we can look at the solution here, but we're definitely going to need to, you know, once again, we don't necessarily need a route. This index EJS inside of this app folder could be rendered as part of some sort of conditional logic someplace else. Maybe we have a folder that's just called errors, and we can render that from anywhere. So just seeing app here doesn't clearly indicate that it is another route, but I know it's another route. And your assumptions as to like, hey, we're creating these other files, and for most of the time, these files have been route specific. So it's a, you know, good use or a good thought process to think that that's what's happening. And let's give everyone a moment, and we'll kind of get this thing going here. If current user, bloop, bloop, bloop.
So it did need 2 dots or just the 1 dot?
The 2 dots. It's the same with, if we take a look at these files also, new EJS has 2 dots, because we have to get out of this folder to go up and then go into partials. The reason why index only needs a single dot is because index is a sibling of partials. So a single dot just says, hey, index, partials must be in the same directory where you're at. That's what the single dot means. The double dot means that what you're looking for, that folder is not in the folder you're at. So you have to get out of the folder that you're at and then find the folder that you're looking for. So this folder must be at the same level as the parent folder that you're in. Okay, so we got index, 10, 13, 14, 15. Got 18. And we still, see at this point in time, you just kind of copy and paste so you don't produce any errors. Everything up to this point should work. So just kind of pay close attention to where errors might exist. If I refresh this, obviously I'm not touching this, but if maybe there was an error loading that file, my server may just be like, hey, nothing's going to really happen here until this thing gets loaded. Views index EJS. So the next thing that we want to do is to update our views index EJS. And we did have here this kind of current name, and that's kind of what we were doing earlier, right? We had, this was already done, if current user, welcome, that ended our H1. We had the form, and then they're now adding this join to the party link. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of copy the H2, I'll paste it in just a second, put it right here. So let me put it right there. That's where we're putting it. I'm going to kind of separate it from the form. Okay, move this over, get that H2 over. Sweet. And so the fact that we just added this and the href says go to app, that means, once again, exactly what we were discussing before, that a new route needs to be created to support this particular redirect, right? So think of like the redirects that we're doing on the server side are changing the URL, right? That's what the redirect was. And the redirect, once the URL is changed, triggers another series of events for the router. We have to go back to that route, ask what's going on. So this is, you know, in essence, kind of a redirect. Like, hey, the minute you click on this, append this to the URL and direct it in this direction, okay? And that's what we're gonna do. If we do that, we need to now go to our server and we need to create another route. All right, so I have, here's our default route. I'm gonna put it here since it's grouped with these routes, right? These are very specific. Like if we hit a route called users, we'll get there. If we hit sessions, we'll get there. This one, since it's part of the server, I'm gonna say app.get, you know, since we're not using a controller for it, you know, rec, res, and then res.render app index EJS, okay? Render EJS, and so if that route, we click on that button, we're gonna give back now that route that we just, or that EJS file that we just created, okay? And we can control, so here it's saying we can control who sees the link also, okay? You know, people can still crash the party if they know the URL. So there's lots of things, there's lots of URLs out there that just because you don't know the exact path, you can't get access to the resource. It's kind of like that obfuscation concept again. If you don't know the route, then you can't get there, right? The routes are hidden behind this unknowingness of the full paths to them. So without using validation, we're just kind of making it so that you don't know it because you don't know the path. So if they did, they could get there. But to help our visitors get to the site, and we'll go to the party, if they are logged in, we'll then just redirect them. So even though this would work, right here, if we try to get to it, what we're going to do, and once again, we can, you know, test this out. I'm here. If I go to app, it should take me to welcome to the party. That's if I know that this route exists, right? If I don't know that that exists, then in essence, it's kind of hidden. I don't know. How am I going to scour the server for routes? You know, maybe that's a hacker thing where hackers, you know, crack passwords. Maybe they shoot routes to a server to see if they can get access to information without having to authenticate, right? Because it's just a way of obscuring access to that resource. So what we're going to do is, if they did authenticate, let's kind of redirect them there. So in essence, what we're going to do is this. Once again, for the sake of this, I'm just going to copy paste it so I don't get any errors. Slack it out. And what we're just going to say is, hey, if rec.session.current user, that exists, send them here. Else, send them here. And does anyone remember where like this information is being kind of populated? Where is that being touched by the time it gets to us?
Session controller.
Okay. Well, we haven't gone through the sessions controller, but right here, right?
The middleware.
Yeah, the middleware. The middleware, the sessions controller only kicks off here, and only kicks off if you do a /sessions. And it would kick off if we did that, right? If we did redirect them to sessions new, then that would kick off right there. But if they are already authenticated, right, that would have been added as part of this middleware process. So just remember this middleware, because as you investigate for your, for your application, you may start looking into new node packages for your server, and it may be like, hey, I want to use this thing, and you put it into the wrong sequence. That's why I'm saying this particular server, if you copied and pasted it, you could change things to suit your application. I always kind of like, I know some instructors don't suggest that, like, no, they should be writing everything and from scratch. I'm just a firm believer in like getting you where you need to get to. If you want to copy paste, then you should understand what's happening and you should just comment it out. Add as many comments that explain to yourself and anyone else that you know what's happening, right? Otherwise, you're going to hit the same typo errors that we've been hitting all day. And it could take you hours, or the misplacements of the middleware. That could take you hours to try to figure that out, okay? So if this works, if this model works, use it. Use it at as many data points as you need to kind of help explain what's happening. Okay, so we only got 5, is that it? Really only 5? All right, now it jumped up. I love it. Okay, so we did the sessions, and I took a look here at my console, and I was when I had logged in originally. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to clear my console. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to log out. Let me see. Let me try logging in again. Let me see. Joe2. Before I do that, all right, let me submit. Here we go. You see my password is just password. That was the password. So I'm going to log out and maybe sign up with a new Joe3, submit it, log in, Joe3, boom. And my passwords are not being encrypted, right? It was just the session that was saying, hey, they authenticated. Let's give them this session kind of token or some sort of value that said, yes, they were authenticated. So the session's kind of following us around now behind the scenes, right? But my password is still unencrypted. That's a really bad thing to be doing at this point in time. So what we're going to want to do is do the last of the lectures, which is only a handful of things for us to set up. bcrypt, okay? And so bcrypt, if we just took a look at bcrypt node package, right? Just do this, bcrypt npm, all right? Just take a look at and see what this package does. Am I not sharing? Okay. And so it's a library to help you hash passwords. That's really what it is. Right? It's not a whole lot going on here. Type error, security issues and concerns. I mean, they tell you to install it and then how to use it. So ultimately, we're seeing this. You're going to see this all the time, right? We need to declare our dependencies. We're going to add a salt. It's a plain text password, some other plain text password. So they're telling us kind of how to set it up. We're going to take a look at, what's in the lecture and setting it up. I just kind of wanted to show you the package, show you that it is, being used out there. It's a pretty popular package, right? Weekly downloads, 275,000 weekly downloads. So it's a pretty popular package, okay? And so here is where we're going to do it, okay? So in our controllers, let me see, our controllers, users controller. All right. Now this is in our controller file. In our controllers, it's not users controller, it's users underscore controller, right? Kind of been through that already to make all those updates to the README files. And so we have this. Now, before we do it, we have to install bcrypt, right? So I'm just going to go here to my server. I'm going to stop my server. I'm going to make sure I'm in my server. I'm going to do npm install bcrypt. Boom. If I do that, should install it. Looks good. So again, now I know it's all in alphabetical order. Here's bcrypt. It's right at the very top. Okay. So make sure install bcrypt. Do that. Okay. Click on that. Let me know that it's installed. Once it's installed, just restart your server. So I didn't restart my server. NodeMon. Install the bcrypt. A little bit left, and then we're going to be all set. We'll send you off to lab. We're just going to need to update two things, or update it in two different places. Right? Good. 11, 12, just 13. It's a pretty simple install. Okay, let's jump in there. So what we want to do is go into our users controller, right? So I'm going to go to my users controller. Bloop. Here's the users controller. And in here is where we're going to add this little line right here. Okay? So overwrite the user's password with the hashed password, then pass that to our database. So it's just that one line, and it's going to be right here, right? So I'm just going to paste that there, select this out. Okay. And so what we're saying now is, come in, grab the password, apply bcrypt, hash sync to it, rec.body.password, bcrypt, generate the salt of 10. So a salt is kind of like it's almost like that passphrase, this additional thing that you add to a password to give it more, additional thing that you add to a hash. There's a difference between a hash and encryption. Something that's encrypted can be decrypted. Something that is hashed is never unhashed. Something that is hashed means I have to run the hashing algorithm and then compare the results to make the determination that the information is the same. That's really what a hash is. You never unhash something. It's this kind of secret key that you have in some other hashing algorithm. And if you have those two pieces and you take a piece of data and you put it in, you get an end result. And if I take the same information with the same secret key and other information and I put it through the machine, I'll always get the same results. And then that's how I know that the information originally has not been mutated. Adding a single dot to something changes the information, produces a different hash, okay? I know, who is that with the mind blown? We're almost there, almost there. Just add that one line there. We have one more. And the one gotcha that we're going to have here now is that since we are applying this hashing algorithm, the previous passwords that we created aren't going to work anymore, okay? So we would want at this point in time to kind of delete our users and get rid of them altogether and kind of recreate them. Obviously, this would have been in place before any new users ever logged on, right? I mean, as part of this code along is do it, and let's add something else. So we'd want to remove all of our users or create new ones because the old ones, their passwords aren't going to work anymore because now we're taking their passwords and we're encrypting them, okay? And we still have one last thing to do in our sessions controller also. There's one last thing to do in our sessions controller, okay? Just to make it easy for our sessions controller here, sessions.post. Just gonna select this out just so we can get this done. Post, user find one, right? So I'm gonna go to my sessions controller right here, and here's our sessions post. We have wrong password, user not, redirect. So I'm just gonna do this. I don't feel like typing in everything. Boom. Just gonna paste that in. And really what we did was this. Kind of added that if statement. If bcrypt compare sync. So the two things that we have here are, bcrypt hash sync, bcrypt compare sync, these methods. One is going to hash, one will do the comparison. And really, it's just doing the comparison of the, what was sent into the body, what was inside of the database, and still doing the validation, okay? So if I save this, I go back to my server, say I log out, let me refresh, right? So if I try to log in now, once again, when I logged in earlier, I logged in, Joe 3 was successful in logging on, so and if I do Joe 3, did I break my server? Let me see. Bcrypt. Bcrypt is not defined on controller line 11. Right here. Oh, that would be, anyone know why? Because I didn't import the dependency. So in both files, we have to import the dependency. That's why. Easy enough. Let's overlook that. Okay. Once again, just following the errors. Bcrypt is not defined. I look exactly at the line. This is something that I created so I can decipher what's going on. I wouldn't be able to look inside of this model.js, inside of lib, inside of Mongoose. I'll never figure this stuff out. If it's not at a file that you created like this, you're not going to be able to figure it out. I've had students say, I've looked on line 4,299 of this thing and I can't figure it out. And you'll never figure it out. The error is happening in your code and it's just triggering this sequence of events that's like, hey, we expected this all the way down here. We didn't get it. We're going to error out, which triggers another error. But this is the thing that caused it. So I'm going to go back. Let's take a look.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
When you create a new person, is it supposed to still say the password? The password's supposed to be hidden, right?
It should. Let's take a look. I'm just gonna test. Once again, I'm just gonna go back and test that my previous users don't work. So 3 doesn't work. Awesome log. All right. So I'm going to sign up because that's what you're asking for, right? You're saying the previous users, Aaron? Or new users?
No, I was saying when you go to put a new user and you look at your node mon, shouldn't it not show the password?
Well, if you're capturing, oh, what happened here? If you're capturing the password, let me just see here. This is what's coming back from node mon. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Hold on one second.
That's what I was saying, because I thought the whole point was so that you couldn't see
Should
the
hash
password.
it. So let me take a look. Unless I did not like save something here. All right, save it. All right. I think maybe my server wasn't saved. So I'm going to try doing this. Joey for, nope, saying wrong password, right? Okay. Just going to make sure. I'm going to see. Is it creating it? Connected to Mongo. I'm just going to get rid of my errors. All right, I'm going to stop my server, restart my server. Just want to see something. All right. So log in. I am going to sign up one more time. All right. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to just put this over here so I can kind of see what's happening as we do this. Okay. We don't need this all the way over here. Let's do this. Let's do this. Awesome. So create a user. Ooh, Joe 5 hasn't been created yet. Joe 5 submits. All right. So we're saying Joe 5. We put it in the database. Let's log in. Joe 5. Joe 5. Yeah. So what happens is, let me see what's going on here. What is going on with this now? So server, it's not happening in our server. All right, we did it here. No, did it in our controllers or where we're doing this. Let me just take a look and see where I went off here for the users. Just making sure I got exactly what I put in here. Body, users, redirect.
It looks like you inadvertently removed the create model from this code. Well, because you're. Oh, I see what you're doing. You're putting the rec.body password in the create model itself, user.create versus before it. So it's hashing it afterwards.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So let me take this out, putting it above this, right? Because we need to hash it before it gets sent in, right? So this needs to be hashed before we send it into the database. So let's do this. Let me test this out. I'm just going to make sure that, and for my sessions also, I have it in the right place. Sessions is fine one. Yep, if bound user. Okay. I'm going to try this. Let's try testing this out. All right. Okay, so let's do, I'm going to sign up. Go 6, boom, log in. Let's see. All right, so now it is. Yeah. See the password's encrypted? Came back encrypted, which means now if we do Joe 6 should take us back. Welcome, Joe. Boom, and then we can log out. Okay?
Okay, what'd you do there, Joe?
Okay, so we did this. Let me go back in here. So in the users, this was mistakenly added here. This is where it was originally. We don't want it there. What we want is to do the password up here first. This is where we want to do it. We don't want to do it in the create. That's what was throwing it off.
Mine still isn't working. It's still saying wrong password, and it's still showing the password.
Are you doing, now you have it written like this? Controller?
I think so, yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
that's in users controller?
Yeah, that's the user's control. I'm just going to,
Yeah.
let me just paste the user's controller so you have it. So that's the user's controller.
Wait, so then what goes in the sessions?
All right, so in the sessions controller, we have,
Oh, okay,
this,
nothing.
yeah, this
Okay.
is pretty much what we added here. Okay. Let me see something here. I think I might have added something. I'm just going to comment this out in my sessions controller. I'm going to see if I missed one extra line of code, this found user. I'm just going to test this out. Let me see. I'm going to log in. I think it was Joe6, Joe6, and then we log out. Yeah, it works just as good. All right. Whew. That was a lot. Join the party. So what I'm not seeing is this though. In our index file, this if current user, right? If this is true, we should be seeing join the party, and I don't see join the party. So if I do log in, Joe 6, Joe 6, I just see log out.
For once, mine is working.
Awesome.
I'm seeing the join the party.
So you're seeing join the party. So now I'm curious, like where mine went off that I don't see join the party. Because I'm saying if current user.
Does it have anything to do with like your indentations of everything?
I don't think so. What I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to take what I have here. Maybe I did do something. So I'm just going to do this.
Because it's not saved.
Oh my God.
And then I have an error when you're done.
So frustrating. All right, so let me do this. I'm gonna log in. Let's take a look. Joe 6, Joe 6, join the party. Raise the party, and there we go. Awesome. So I must have had, yeah, the way it was loaded up wasn't correct. I just kind of copied and pasted it from. All right, but you're having an issue? All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, share yours. Oh. Oof.
That was ironic that happened at the exact same time.
Seriously, that was good. That was real good.
All right, above error is not helpful. I love that. I love how they say, like, if the above error is not helpful, yeah. Unexpected token dot in index.ejs. So go to your app index.ejs. Index.ejs. It says that it sees an unexpected dot. I don't see, I see you're going up to partials.
Include is spelled wrong.
Oh, yep. Oh. Is it working?
Yes, thank you.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah. And that's just one of the additional reasons, just to kind of use these base server templates. This is going to drive everyone crazy, these tiny little one-offs, especially if you're prone to mistyping, which I truly am prone to doing it. Sweet. So, join the party. We've been authenticated. Yes, Jeremy, yes. If I could find a more excited icon to say that the code along is done, I would.
We literally did that simultaneously, like without even talking to her. It was really funny.
It is. All right. Let me go to, let me just do this. I'm going to create the breakout rooms. Breakout rooms.
Real quick, Joe, do you know when the markdowns from today will be edited?
I'm going to do that. While you guys are on break, I'm going to go back and edit the files.
Okay.
I edited a few things as people were mentioning it, like during a break. But I haven't edited it since we've been doing it. So I got to go back. I got to make a decision also if it's something like, do I change this to be from users controllers? Says everything inside of this file really points to users and not controller. Do I want to go back and change this to be just users and sessions? Because if I do, then that's really an easy way to solve this. But your solutions all have users underscore controller. So if I have to opt between the two, I would go back here and edit this thing to be users and remove the controller so that it stays consistent. So whoever last edited this document, once again, I don't know, edited this document, made this decision at some point after this whole thing was put together, and maybe someone stated, hey, calling these files all the same thing is kind of confusing. Let's give them some uniqueness. And that uniqueness here just triggered the confusion for the rest of the README. So I would opt just to go back and change this versus looking for every unique instance of it. But I'll look for the other things too. I was jotting down where we had some of those issues. Most of them were this, but I'll take a look. Or the partials, having one dot instead of two dots, things like that. I'm going to go back. Okay, so you ready? No one's ready. Okay.
Hey, Joe, I
Sure.
feel like we covered a lot, but then we didn't all at the same time. Are you able to maybe give us like a 3-sentence summary of what the authentication process requires? Like, I know we had to do the .env file,
Sure.
and we had to download, or we had to, I'm trying to think back here, like what were the 4 things that were new for today as opposed to us just working with more files than we ever have before?
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the starting file, right? Server.js really contains some of that information, right? One of the first things we did was this .env, and that was to store some secret information or information that we wanted to load up into the global environment. And we're going to use this later in a few different places. If I take a look at the .env file, and the two are synonymous with each other. If you see .env as a requirement at the app, then there is going to be a .env file someplace. And here we just used it to define the port so we can elevate this port variable to a global scope and use it anywhere in this file. The MongoDB URI was also added, and this, once again, just created the auth lesson sub-database, and then this secret here is being used for the passwords. And so we just loaded that. We added that here, and by going into server and doing this config here looks for .env and loads it. That's pretty much what we did with that. The other thing that we did add, this was new as well, this expression session, and that was meant to assist with maintaining sessions of the current user. The current user's logged in, we keep a session, and we keep passing that session around, and so the user is authenticated. It'll be part of that user's object for the lifetime that they're logged into the server. When they're logged out, we delete the session. That's what we use that for. And then these two configurations here, once again, is just saying that the port is equal to what's inside that file and that this is equal to what's inside the file, the Mongo URI. That was it. This was stuff that you did yesterday also. This middleware you did yesterday, this was new middleware. And so the fact that we imported the session npm package, we're using the session npm package for this. And it uses that secret, right? So that was something that we put into the env for the purpose of using this session. So it's actually not used for like hashing the passwords. It's used for the session itself. And so we're saying, hey, what's the secret? Well, the secret's what we stored in there. And then these two additional, I have to look up specifically what these two are doing. Just kind of leave them as is. That's kind of like explaining this over and over what this does. Sometimes I just have to go look and see what it does. But this was part of the middleware that stemmed from this. Once again, it's important the placement of this middleware, right? MongoDB, this is all, we've done this before. And then I'm just looking down here. And then we created the controllers. The controllers that are going to create the ability to create a new user, right? This controller creates new users, and this controller handles user sessions, right? That's what they handle. So these two files, these two routes, and then controllers, you know, they're going to take us to these routes. I'm going to say go to the users, and in the users file, right here, we imported Express, router, because we're routing, right? We're going to do routing here. We also have a model to create a user, you know, once again, we've been working with models. And then this one here is the newbie right here, is this bcrypt. Bcrypt is going to create the hash to take a password and convert it into this, right? That's what it's going to convert it into a hash. So the password is never stored as plain text. It's hashed and stored in the database like that. So the only times that password is kind of available to grab as a password would be in transit from the client to the server. And how do we encrypt that transit? Does anybody know the protocol that we would use? If I type something in from my machine over the internet through this insecure environment of the internet, what's the protocol we use to secure our information?
Packets.
Well, packets transmit data.
HTTPS.
Yeah, HTTPS. And S is stands for, I think, secure. And what it uses is certificates, and the certificates hide the information. They encrypt the information, and there's a public and private key pair of certificates. I don't want to kind of walk down the road, but you use HTTPS every day. Never log on to a site with any information that you don't want captured. If it says HTTP, don't log on, because if anyone is like tapped into that line or somehow viewing packets, I'll just tell you from experience, I had studied for the ethical hacker exam. I had taken it. I taught an ethical hacking class once, and I was going to go down that route. And you can steal a lot of information out there. There's a lot of stuff out there that's just available for the picking. But coming back here, here's the bcrypt. The bcrypt is doing that hashing of it. So it takes the password, hashes it, and then we have it here. You know, that's where we're doing the hashing. Okay, that's the users, and that's us creating a new user. And then we create that user, right? Here's the user.create, and then we're going to pass it the information, and then the database creates the user with the username in plain text, but the password as hashed. Awesome, so the user's hashed. Once we did that, we created the user, it took us right back. I'm just going to go back to the index. It then took us right back to kind of this page where we still had to log in. Right, so we got redirected back here to log in. So now I'm logging in. I click on login. When I do click on login, we're going to go to this route, sessions new. So I'm like, okay, sessions new. I go to the sessions folder. I go to new, right? Before I go to the sessions new, this sessions gets interpreted here in the server file with the sessions controller. The fact that we had /sessions in the route is immediate trigger to send all requests that have /sessions to the sessions controller. And so we're gonna step into here. And so in the sessions controller, we are gonna get or render the sessions page. Okay. So where does the sessions post happen? Where's sessions post happening? So I'm going to go back here and see, do we have anything for sessions post? We don't have it here, right? So where does sessions, here's sessions and sessions post right here. You see this? So when we create a new session, we're sending, that action is put it here, and that's our post. So in sessions, this is what gets kicked off. We hit sessions, we hit post, and then we find the user. That's what we're looking to do. We're looking to find the user, hash their password so we can compare it to what they typed in. Or I'm sorry, it compares the thing. So it takes in what they did, hashes it, compares it to what we saw in the database. And if those two hashes are exact, boom, you're done. We redirect you back to the home page. Otherwise, we give you wrong password. If we redirect you back to the home page, if I go back to index, in the home page, we do have this. If the current user is that, then we'll show this information. And if not, they won't see that. So the pieces of information that we did introduce today, right, just a handful, was .env, sessions, and the bcrypt that we're seeing here. Is it new? Right? No, it's in the user's controller, is it? Yeah, it's in the controllers, is the bcrypt. So 3 things we kind of introduced, as in like at least 3 packages that we introduced, new packages. env, express sessions, and bcrypt has those packages. And then it was just the configuration of the server to support that. Is that like the nutshell? I know it was a lot. It's a long day of us coding along. And, my theory is, you're watching, you're coding, you're seeing it work, is far from truly understanding what happened, because a lot got thrown. If it's working, great, right? I mean, the sensation is that it's working, but understanding it, it's a far cry from like.
I'm glad you said it, Joe.
No, when I was in your shoes, I was where you're at, and I know, and I've taught this stuff enough times to know that when I do a code along, and everyone does it, they feel great that they coded, and it's like, great, it feels great, I did it. I did exactly what you did, and it works, and that's awesome. But when it comes time to reproducing it on your own and making subtle changes without fully understanding what's happening, you're going to struggle with it. And that's why I'm going to just kind of always kind of throw out there, like when you're looking towards your projects, take one of the previous things that we've done and use that as your template. Don't try to create everything from scratch. Otherwise, you're just going to spend hours battling uphill. Okay? It's not about, a lot of it is about understanding it. I want you to understand it. I truly do. But at the same time, some of it is about producing something. Do you know enough? Without saying I understand everything 100%, do you know enough to reproduce something, to build something based on the tools that you were given? And that's going to require going back and looking at this lab and that exercise to see how things were constructed, and then try to take those bits and pieces and put them together to build the thing that you want to build. And that's going to be the struggle for the project. That's why you're giving as much time as you are for projects, because it takes time to go back and look through the labs and lectures and like piecemeal this stuff to build the thing that you want to build. It's not easy. Does that help at all?
Oh, I have one question here.
Yep.
The secret that we define in environment file, it can be of any length and it can be anything.
In this env file?
Yeah. The secret. It can
the secret, yeah, I believe the secret can be whatever you want. Okay. I mean, I'd have to go and just confirm. I'd have to go take a look at the documentation. But from what I've seen, usually what we use is this, but it can be whatever you want.
And
Maybe you can test it out. What's that?
What does it do? I mean, I know we have defined it here, but what did it do actually?
Okay, does anyone know where the secret was being used? Just from that quick review that I did. Can anyone tell me where, what file?
The middleware thing.
Yes. All right, so it's being used in the middleware, and in the middleware, it's taking that secret and doing something with the session. I'd have to take a look and see what it's doing under the hood with it. Like, I don't necessarily know. I'd have to go to Express Session and see what they're doing with this secret and what that secret looks like, what the session looks like. I don't know. It's not something that I investigate all the time. I just kind of know how to configure the thing. And if we need this, and we need this secret, and we add it here, and it does what it needs to do, I almost just kind of run with it without truly trying to delve any further into that. Only because if I thought that knowing the internals of this particular library would make me develop another application or use certain features, then I would certainly do that. But I have not run into anything where pursuing this session library and understanding every nuance to it is going to do me any kind of favors in building something out above and beyond what I need with just the functionality.
Mm-hmm. So if you open your same application in new tab and log in with different user ID, so you will have 2 sessions, right?
I think so. Yeah, I'd have to take a look though. To be honest, I'd have to say, what if I took this app here and I went here, right? I would have to log in and have another session here. Yeah, so that's telling me that the sessions are kind of browser related, right? It's not carrying over because I'm here, and if oh no, maybe it timed me out here. Let me try doing this. Joe 6, I'm in, right? I'm gonna join the party. I'm gonna refresh, it works. You just go back here. Let me see. Nope, it still kept me logged in. So now I'm in. Okay, I've refreshed this, I'm still in the party. I go back here, refresh, I'm still in the party. So that session is keeping me logged in. Okay. Or I got access to this thing, right? Once again, that you're really able to get access to regardless. So if I go back here and I was like, here, I'm authenticated. I'm actually going to do this. Now that I'm here, because remember this, the only reason why we got access to app here is because it said, hey, you have a session and let's just kind of redirect you. You can get to this regardless. So it doesn't really matter. So here, right? And now it still works. It still sees me as being authenticated. Anybody can get access to that route. This route will work because we're not really stopping you from getting access to that. It's just a faux pas way of doing it. Cool. Any other questions?
Hey, Joe, I know you're a big fan of commenting code.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep all these comments and maybe add a few extra comments in some of your code before you push it up?
Yeah. I'll add some more comments.
That'd be great.
All right. I'll try to add as many more. I was just trying to get through things, at a certain point in time when you were just hitting errors and typing everything and hitting errors. At some point in time, I just kind of wanted to get us to where we need to get to because it's 4:44. I wanted to get to the lab. I want you to start working with it. Otherwise, once again, if you walk away without spending a significant time in the lab, you're going to struggle with trying to reproduce this on your project. Okay, so here's the lab. Okay, so the lab is an extension of this. We did everything up to here. We did this. We created the sessions controller and the supporting files and the set users controller and the supporting EJS files for that. We were able to take them here and say, hey, join the party. And you clicked on join the party and it took you to that app here, right? Your goal now is to create messages and populate those messages within the app. Okay, so you see how there's an app messages here? I'm just gonna go into app messages. Here's our views, here's our app. We did go to index, and now there's this messages new EJS that doesn't have anything in it. So what you would need to do is create the supporting, what do you think you need to do here to support this functionality? To capture messages, to store messages, and to retrieve messages. What do you think of the things you need to do?
You need to add a form.
A form? Sweet, you gotta add a form. What else do you need?
Maybe a message schema.
A schema and a model, right? So you need to be able to have them type it in, grab a schema, grab a model, right? Send it to the database, create the entry, and then what do you need to do when you hit app?
There has to be a route that puts it there to display it.
Yeah, you have to run some sort of query to, once they hit app, you have to go to the database and retrieve those messages. That's the goal here. The goal here is create a form. And so what I would do is create a form, test that the form just works. You don't get any errors. Don't do much more than that. Test the form works, great. Create the database, tie that all in, add something to the database, confirm that it's added to the database, console log it, cool, the thing is added to the database, and then go to app and retrieve those messages. Work on that portion. That's kind of how I would piecemeal it. There is no, README file for this. This is kind of like yesterday where you were just extending certain portions of what you were doing with Matt. This is the same concept. You're kind of on your own to work through this logic to make it happen. And once again, the test here is, as these smaller breakout rooms, you should be able to come up with the logic, because when you're doing your project, no one's going to be there to tell you exactly what to create, how to create it. And so this should be an expectation on your project, that where our code-alongs or our labs, our lectures left off here and you're able to get it, you want to do this now. And so this is this little world here where you got to go from here to here and do that. Okay? So that being said, I'm going to put you in the breakout rooms. Jump into the breakout rooms. Probably going to come back. I'll reach out, but maybe about 5, maybe 45 or something like that to come back to present the project prompt. Okay? I'll be around, so you can always reach out.
Do we have class tomorrow, or is it considered we're kicking into projects?
Tomorrow is, you know what? I'll get back to you when you guys come back from that. We'll talk to you about the project prompt. I'm just going to go talk to Jerica for a minute. Cool. Creating the breakout rooms. You are in the breakout rooms. And let me see here. Move to breakout room 1. Open all rooms. Good. Now you're on.